So with Justice League vs. Fatal 5 coming up this month, and the internet already preemptively peeing their pants because these characters shouldn't be here, I feel like it's probably a good time to look at a character that people had the same reaction to almost 2 decades ago. That's right, today we are talking about my man, Green Lantern. That joke probably would have been a lot funnier if it was Aquaman.
Because it's Thursday.
Looking back on it now, Jon Stewart's inclusion in the Justice League show seems like such a non-issue. But whenever he was first announced to be part of the lineup, people were heated. In fact, Bruce Timm actually went on the record himself saying that it was probably the most controversial creative decision they made when developing the show, which is a point that we brought up in our diversity video that we did about 2 weeks ago. Of course, from a continuity standpoint, this seemed like a valid criticism at the time, seeing as just a little over 2 years ago, Kyle Rayner was set up to be the Green Lantern of Sector 2814, taking the place of previous Green Lantern, Abin Sur. And while this episode of Superman the Animated Series did confirm Hal Jordan's existence in the DC animated universe through this Easter egg, it kind of implied that he never became a Lantern, leaving Kyle to be the sole Green Lantern for Earth. However, while Hal seemingly never became the Green Lantern, I think it is important to look back in his comic book history to kind of help figure out this situation. Now, I know a lot of you guys are here specifically because of your love for the DCAU, so this might not be common knowledge, but Kyle Rayner's origin story in Superman the Animated Series actually doesn't mirror his origins from the comics. In fact, the death of Abin Sur is actually how Hal Jordan got his start as the Green Lantern in DC Comics continuity. First appearing in 1959's Showcase Comics number 22, Hal Jordan was actually the first Green Lantern for Earth. That is, if you don't count Alan Scott, who technically appeared 20 years earlier, but didn't actually have any roots to the Green Lantern Corps. Same name, but not really a Green Lantern. Now, while Sector 2814 did eventually end up with multiple Green Lanterns, going as far back as 1960's Green Lantern number 6, this doesn't seem to be standard procedure for the Green Lantern Corps, and usually it seems that only one lantern was given per space sector. And following this rule, Guy Gardner and Jon Stewart were typically only backups for Hal, with Kyle Rayner only taking the mantle of the Green Lantern after Hal Jordan kind of destroyed the entire Green Lantern Corps during the wake of the events of 1994's Emerald Twilight storyline. As I've already stated though, Hal wasn't chosen to be Abin Sur's successor in the DCAU. That origin was given to Kyle. So if Kyle wasn't gonna be on the Justice League himself, then whoever was must have been his backup in order to match the current status quo of the Archer, stop it. God damn it, hold on, my cat just spilled over all of their food. Oh, Jesus Christ. I love them, but I hate them. In order to match the status quo of the comics, then if Kyle wasn't gonna be on the Justice League himself, whoever was had to have been his backup, right? Well, what kind of sense does that make? I mean, Kyle must be a really busy guy if he's not even gonna get a spot on the Justice League and some other Lantern that's actually a backup is, and he's not even gonna get mentioned in the whole show. Well, I mean, the League doesn't mention him, but at least Kat Matui does.
You're as bad as that Rayner kid you sent me to train. What's your problem?
So it would seem in a move that breaks the DCAU further away from the comics continuity, Kyle wasn't the first Green Lantern for Earth. And this is backed up even further by Jon's official Cartoon Network bio, which states, "For more than 10 years, Jon has patrolled the deepest reaches of space." I need like a teleprompter. But this information places Jon and Abin Sur as being Green Lanterns for Sector 2814 at the same time. So what gives? Well, there are actually a few different ways to explain it. In 2005, DC Comics published a 5-issue miniseries called Green Lantern Corps Recharge. While previous iterations of the Green Lantern Corps had them working on a 1 lantern per sector one lantern per sector basis, this book saw a huge recruitment drive, boosting their numbers up to 7,200 lanterns in total, and had them pairing up into teams. While the book does show us some sectors with decimal points, such as sector 1099.381, prior to the series, the highest numbered sector in the Green Lantern mythos was sector 3600. So it seems very likely that that was the total number of sectors that were governed by the Green Lantern Corps, as this matches the number of lanterns Lanterns given by Hal Jordan in Tales of the Green Lantern Corps #1. Following that logic, the recruitment drive to 7,200 seems as though it were to make sure that there were 2 lanterns for each sector, give or take a few to make up for Earth's abundance of lanterns. Using that as a jumping off point, it seems very likely that John Stewart and Abin Sur were at one point sector partners. However, since Recharge wasn't released until sometime late in Justice League Unlimited's run, that would be a bit of retroactive continuity and wouldn't really explain the thought process behind putting John in the show in the first place. So, what other explanations do we have? Well, have you ever noticed at Superman's funeral how all of the Green Lanterns are wearing these fancy jackets except for Kyle? Okay, I know, I said he doesn't even get as much as a mention in the series, but the League still doesn't acknowledge his presence, so my point still stands. Back on track though, while we don't see John and Kyle in the same shot at all, John is among the other Green Lantern Corps members who are carrying Superman's casket. And while an animation error seems to have taken the jacket away from him towards the end of things, for the most part, he is wearing the jacket during that time. So why are all the Lanterns present wearing one of these fancy jackets except for Kyle? Well, it could just be because Kyle didn't end up in the funeral procession, but I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. In military funerals, the procession, specifically the pallbearers and those walking with them, are typically referred to as the Honor Guard. Similarly, the Green Lantern Corps has a division by the same name, the Honor Guard. While members of this division never did wear formal robes similar to the ones we see in Hereafter, their first appearance in Tales of the Green Lantern Corps #1 did see them in a unique red robe, which, to my knowledge, we seemingly didn't ever see again. Now, this may seem like a bit of a stretch to jump from one thing to another just based off the similar names, but behind the scenes it actually was confirmed that John had been a member of the Green Lantern Corps' Honor Guard. When asked about John's origin on his now defunct website, Dwayne McDuffie actually stated, "We've explained John's background in bits and pieces. John was a Green Lantern long before Kyle, but not in this sector. He was in the Honor Guard. When Abin Sur got into trouble, his ring found another worthy Earthman, Kyle Rayner. When Kyle was reassigned for training, John came back to cover Earth's sector, as it was an opportunity to serve near his home planet." So now I'm sure you're wondering what exactly the Green Lantern Honor Guard is. To be simple, they're just higher ranked Green Lanterns, except they serve on Oa, which is said to be the center of the universe, so technically all of the sectors are within their jurisdiction. But how long was John on the Honor Guard? We know from Mr. McGee that
You've been away a long time, John.
But do we know just how long? Well, going back to Dwayne McDuffie's quote, he continued by saying, "John's been a Green Lantern for as long as 15 years, near as I can figure out. His eyes are green because he's absorbed so much ring energy." And as I stated earlier, his Cartoon Network bio told us that he had been a Lantern for at least 10 years. So with the fact that we've confirmed before that the Justice League had formed in the year 2000, this then places John becoming a Green Lantern sometime between 1985 to 1990, a few years before Batman the Animated Series even started at the very least, and a decade or more before Kyle even got a ring. So now that we have this all laid out, my question of the day for you guys is, how did you guys feel whenever John was first introduced into the DCAU? Were you in the camp that was kind of mad that it wasn't Kyle? Or were you completely fine with the creative team not sticking to the pre-established continuity? And now that you know all the backstory behind it, does this make you a little less skeptical about the new characters showing up in Justice League vs. the Fatal Five? Me personally, I'm just excited to see what they're all up to. As much of a stickler as I am for continuity, I think just telling it to screw off every once in a while opens up more creative storytelling avenues. So I'm just really excited to see what they do with both Jessica Cruz and Miss Martian. But you know, that's just me. As always, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say down under in the Australia box. Of course, before I go, I want to thank all these lovely people who have helped support us on Patreon this month. If your name's not on the list, you can head on over to patreon.com/DCAU Watchtower and we'll get it on there for the next time for as low as $1 a month pledge. While you're over there, you can check out other perks that we've got available as well, like voting in polls to pick upcoming videos, live stream hangouts, custom artwork from James, or even merch. Speaking of merch, if you want to grab yourself a Watchtower t-shirt but don't have the money to pledge anything monthly, you can always pick one up at our Teespring store. The link's down there in the description. I just ordered a Vanishing Point shirt. Whenever it comes in, you'll see me rocking it here. But if you haven't seen them yet, Ted has been wearing the 12 Level Intellects and the Legacies t-shirts in his new graphic content series that he's doing on the channel. So if you want to look as cool as Ted, you should buy that merch. Buy that merch. Buy that merch. I hate Jake Paul. Oh, and before I forget, today starts our coverage of Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle, Washington. This is gonna be the first time that James, Ted, and I have all been in the same room. James and I have met before, I've met Ted before, but James and Ted, despite having known each other for so long, have never met each other. So it's gonna be really fun. If you're coming to the con and wanna meet us, you should follow us on Twitter and Instagram at DCAU Watchtower to follow where we are, or shoot a comment at us being like, hey, I'm over here, or just wait for us to say, hey, we're over here. I don't know. By the way, if you're interested in hanging out with us, but don't have the ability to get to Emerald City Comic Con, we do have a Discord server that James, Ted, and I all pop into occasionally to kind of catch up with all of you guys. I'm in there the most often, and James is in there a lot, and Ted's always flying solo, but you know, he's there sometimes. It's been really fun just kind of catching up with all of you guys, talking comics, talking movies, talking life in general. So if that's something you're interested in, there's another link down under in the description box, right above the Australia box. I'm starting to sound like a real YouTuber. You guys should like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, make sure your notifications are turned on, you know, all of that fun stuff. Anyway, as always, I've been Maddie Washburn, this has been The Vanishing Point, and we'll continue to stay those things so long as you continue to stay you. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. I love you. I think I said that backwards from usual. It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. Or something, I don't know the words to that song.